Welcome back, everybody. So I recently took Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within seminar, and let's talk about it. So I decided to do Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within because of his free breakthrough challenge he did back in January. During that challenge, he provided an immense amount of value, just completely over-delivered. So if you could do anything like that here, when he was doing things for 12 hours straight per day instead of a couple of hours every day, I think that would be definitely money's worth. So let's talk about the structure of the event. Basically, it's a 4-day event, so it runs from Thursday to Sunday. Every day is anywhere between 11 hours and 14 hours, and normally have around a 30-minute to an hour break every day towards the evening. And in terms of everyday stuff, you normally have KK, who kind of introduced the event. Normally have a guy called, what's his name? Brian Bradley from the Iguski method, something along those lines, doing some posture corrective exercises for you to just, for your body to perform better. And then you have a bunch of guys whose names I completely forgot. But with them, we do like 20 to 30 minutes of literally just jumping around and dancing, which is quite entertaining. All this was done in order for you to raise the state so that you're learning and understanding and listening to things in those seminars from a peak state instead of kind of your average state where you're kind of writing everything down like 12 hours straight, because in that case, like, everybody were asleep by the 4-hour mark. So this is like one of the reasons why Tony was actually able to keep everybody kind of alive and active through those like 12 to like 14 hours, because every hour we literally everybody get up, we kind of like just jump around basically. In terms of individual days, so day 1 was breakthrough, so fear into power. Here we looked at all the different reasons. Here we looked at underline. Okay, we're gonna have the cat speaking as well. So in this section, we talked about the underlying motivations, what really drives us to do the things we actually do. So before we can actually change, we need to realize what's actually holding us back, well, actually they're keeping us alive. And then before we can actually change it, we need to understand what's going on there. And then he wants to talk about, you can't.
Okay, not to forget, on day 1, we did the board break, so I'm a qualified ninja kung fu expert now.
Day 2 was closing the gap. We need to identify where we're at now and then where we want to do. And then basically, how can we achieve the stuff we want to do in different areas of our life, whether it be relationship, finance, business, etc. And yeah, this stuff is a lot easier to do when you're actually in the peak state. So day 3, eliminate inner conflict. This is where you do the Dickens process, which is more or less a 2-hour guided meditation. Humans value the avoidance of fear more than the chase of the pursuit of pleasure. This is because in evolution basically means that fear is danger, and danger means we could die. So in evolution, being afraid is actually quite a good thing. But in our current society, this, for you to actually be able to do anything kind of significant, you kind of have to go against fear. You can associate more fear in the stuff you're not doing or the habit you kind of want to change. You want to associate so much fear of what you're doing right now that only thing you can actually do is do the thing and actually close the gap. And day 4 was vitality and health. So this is how you can basically maintain optimum energy. So Tony was actually speaking only for day 1 in 3, and day 2 and day 4 there was a lot of additional speakers, which is quite cool in a way, and plus it helps Tony to kind of maintain his voice.
Okay, now looking at sales. So obviously Tony provides so much value in all these courses. It's only done his UPW event, so I can assume that his other events, and from listening to all the reviews, is just 10 times better. But just some of the sales stuff is a bit meh, a bit yuck, I guess. So during day 1 there's no sales, and during day 2 there's like a little bit, and during day 3 and then especially day 4 there was a lot more. What I didn't particularly like is during day 3, after you do the Dickens process, the 90-minute guided meditation, like, it's quite a transformative experience. And then straight after, once you're like in this peak state, he goes in the sales pitches. So yeah, what we're gonna say is, so extract as much value as you can from all the stuff, just the stuff you don't want to listen to, like all the sales pitches. Literally just walk away, just kind of step out of the room for a couple of hours. So this is like one of the things that could be questionable. Apparently in the live events, it's slightly different.
Okay, so my body's reaction to doing so much jumping. Over the course of those 4 days, I did accumulate a lot of steps and did a lot of jumping. So by day 2, my calves started to hurt quite a lot. And then by like towards the end of day 2, my elbows started to hurt because I was just doing this so much. And then my hands started to hurt because I was doing so much clapping. I looked at my health app, and then turns out I did about 15k steps per day. So
yeah, so I was basically doing a full workout.
Now let's have a look at some of the key principles I took away. So these are not the only principles. There's just so much covered. There's so much density there, so much good material, but it's what stuck with me since, and it's something I want to talk about. Point 1, focus, the power of absolute clarity and commitment. Okay, let's start off by looking at the RAS, which is the reticular activation system, which is your selective focus. Basically, your brain will notice what it focuses on. So a good way to demonstrate is through an example. How about you look around the room and then have a look at all the brown things in there. So I've got, this is brown, that's brown. You just kind of common, like just mentally make a note of the amount of brown things you can see. There's a few, right? So now close your eyes. Okay, how many brown things can you see? Now with closed eyes, how many red things did you see? Yeah, it's a lot more difficult to look at the red things. Okay, here we're trying to underline a point about there's just so much stimuli for your brain to actually take in all at once. So the subconscious mind more or less chooses what needs to be present. And this is good and all, but it becomes a problem when the stuff you tell and the questions you ask yourself is really negative, because your RAS, your selective focus, will literally start searching for those things. But if you can rewire it, it becomes a completely different picture. Coming back to a point, this is why like things like gratitude is just so important. This is why clarity equals power. So when you can clearly see what you want, your brain, your RAS will literally start looking for it. Okay, second point, law of proximity. The most important decision in your life is who you spend time with, because that's who you become. So this kind of thing is like you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself by, which is, yeah, definitely the case. And here's another thing. People's lives are a direct reflection of the expectations of their peer group. If the peer group expects a lot from everybody, everybody will literally rise to that standard, including yourself. But on the other hand, if your peer group expects nothing of you, you wouldn't really expect much of yourself either. Let's say your peer group expects very little, so you come back from work and then you just play video games for the next 2 to 3 hours. And then during the weekend, you go to the pub a couple of times a week, maybe even do a bunch of drugs, whatever. And the chances are you wouldn't expect a lot for yourself either, because this is the standard of your peer group. So the key here, you want to join a peer group which plays the game of life higher where you currently are at, and underlining the fact that proximity is power. Okay, challenges and problems. People's biggest problem is they think we should have none. And here's a quote: the only people without problems are in cemeteries. So basically this means that problems are a sign of life, so you shouldn't run away from problems. Okay. Next point, change your state. So different people are kind of in different states. Somebody who's depressed, their states are quite low. So for example, a lot of the times their physiology will be kind of mimic that state. So for example, probably be closed off, the kind of the body language kind of inwards. They're probably looking down, probably not even making eye contact. The way they speak and what they say is a reflection of their state. But let's say if somebody's confident, probably the chest is out, the shoulders are back, they're more relaxed, and the physiology, the focus they have, and the language is a reflection of that. This is why there's so much jumping around and just kind of movement in Tony's seminars, because you're actively trying to change your state, trying to change your physiology. And so when you're at a high state, it's a lot easier to make decisions, because you're in a completely different state of mind. So making decisions when you're depressed is completely different when you're in a lot higher states. Okay, how can you change the state? So we have this little triangle, and the biggest one is your physiology. Emotion is created by motion. However you're feeling right now has some sort of correlation with how you're using your body. And it's coming back to a point, if you're depressed, your body language is going to be closed off, and everything else will reflect that. But for example, if you're in a high energy state, in your peak state, your shoulders are going to be down and your chest is going to be up. This actually includes your face as well. So you're probably smiling, kind of feel relaxed. The second part of the triangle is your focus and your belief. Whatever you focus on is what you're going to believe. Focus equals the reality of that individual. It doesn't really matter whether it's actually true or not. So let's say you've had 2 identical people having exactly the same job, married to exactly the same people, have exactly the same cars, everything's the same. One could be incredibly happy and joyful, no one could be depressed and miserable. So one of the big reasons is because what to focus on. And this is kind of coming back to the point of your RAS, your selective focus. And the third part of the triangle is the language and the meaning you create. So your words kind of carry an emotional charge. So let's say you lost 100k, and then you could be like, fuck's sake, how the fuck did I do this? Whose fucking fault's this? Fucking can't believe this. Or you can be like, that's interesting. I lost £100,000. How did that happen? I'm so curious. How did somebody manage to do that? And so you see, the different charge and your different emotion is created by this. Through doing that, you raise completely different emotions. You're in a completely different state. This is why things like affirmations are so important, and incantations. So when you say something with enough certainty and enough power, you start to believe it. Next point is the 3 principle of mastery. This is quite basic, but it's just very well put together. So the first one is you want to model from somebody who's already achieved what you want. So of course you can kind of trial and error your way through life. So let's say you want to master a certain skill, let's say sales, and then it might take you like 10 years to literally master through trial and error. But you can go to somebody who's already been there and done all the trial and error and be like, okay, cool, I want to learn from you. let me figure out how I can do that. A lot of the times that you just buy a course or something, you can save yourself like, let's say 8-9 years of your time, which is just incredible. And the thing is, like, the most valuable thing you have is your time. You can make more money, but you can't really make more time. If you can do that, it just saves so much time, just so much progress.
Okay, like not even going as far as courses, because we live in an information age. Everything out there is ready available for free somewhere on the internet. So literally just go out there and find it. And like another thing you can really learn like a lot from is books.
The second point, you want to learn for total immersion. So let's say you want to learn a language. Majority of us, at least in the UK, we were learning a second language. So throughout year 7 to year 11, around 4 years of secondary school, I got to learn Spanish. So every week I was putting about 3-4 hours of effort into learning Spanish. In reality, did I learn it? No. But let's say if I dropped off in the middle of Spain, without a phone, without anything, I was like, yeah mate, you're not coming back until like 4-month period, and we'll see how far you've come. And in that point, I'm like, well, fuck, I have to survive in order for me to actually learn it. So I'm going to be more motivated to actually learn it. So immersion is king. For me, another thing what happened is I was originally born in Russia and I moved to UK when I was 10. I couldn't speak a word of English. From the period of me when I was 7 to the period of me when I was 10, I was learning English. But in reality, I just didn't really want to do it. I couldn't really speak a word. I didn't really know what hello was. For the period of me coming to UK and after the first kind of month or so, I was like, you know what? I'm not learning English. Everybody will learn Russian around me. Through that process, I actually learned English in around like 4 or 5 months. And after 2 years, because I didn't speak enough Russian, I actually completely forgot it. So I had to get another tutor for me to relearn Russian.
And again, highlighting the point that the reason I learned English so quickly is because of total immersion. I didn't speak any Russian. The only thing I could speak is English.
So going back to the point, immersion is king. So there could be different practices you want to kind of experiment with. Like for me, I did another thing called a Vipassana meditation retreat, which is a 10-day silent meditation retreat, which the stuff you learn for just doing nothing for 10 days is literally incredible, just complete immersion. You might want to do like some sort of multi-day event like Unleash the Power Within, or maybe like a Wim Hof winter expedition, or just kind of random stuff, just learn from complete immersion. And then last bit is spaced repetition. You want to sustain the momentum you created through immersion by continuing to do this thing, so you can continue to get better at it, and then you continue making actually measurable progress in any area of your life. I actually got some memorable quotes I've got in the description. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching. If you want to know a bit more about me, I actually made a Q&A about me, what happened when I moved from Russia to England, and a bunch of other stuff. If you want to check out, it'll be right here. Okay, cool. I'll see you later. Bye.